there's a case I'd like to talk about. It's a favorite because it makes so many things abundantly clear. There was a group of black women in the 70s. They sued General Motors. Like many companies, General Motors practiced race and sex discrimination in hiring. They had women's jobs, they had black jobs. The women's jobs were for secretarial and office work. The black jobs were the dirty ones on the floor. The catch for black women is that the women's jobs weren't for blacks, and the black jobs weren't for women. Thus, black women weren't hired. So what did they do? Well, what did we expect them to do? They sued. They claimed race and gender discrimination. Isn't it obvious that these women were discriminated against on the basis of race and gender? Well, it wasn't so obvious to the court hearing the case. To this court, they weren't able to prove their claim. Now, why were they not able to prove their claim? Well, this is interesting logic. Hang on here. So the first thing the court asked was, is there race discrimination? Well, General Motors obviously hired black men, so there wasn't race discrimination. Then they asked, was there gender discrimination? Well, General Motors obviously hired women, so there wasn't gender discrimination. The court said they were making a specious claim. They were making it up. But there's more. Not only that, the court said if we were to let you make a special claim combining race and gender discrimination, then you would be this super class. You would get something that no one else gets. You get to combine claims, right? So you would get special treatment. You'd be privileged. And of course, we can't have that. This is all about equality. So they got kicked out of court and insulted to boot. It's intersectional discrimination. Let me show you a metaphor that might help us figure out what's going on. When I say intersectionality, I'm being quite literal. I'm referring to the idea that racism, sexism, classism, homophobia, ableism, ageism, they're like deep grooves in our society. They're like the axes that crisscross our culture. If you think of it as roads traveling north to south, east to west, and the traffic is the discrimination, the things that come rolling through. So as anybody knows who has pets who live by a highway, it's a dangerous place to live, to be near a highway or near an intersection where there's a lot of traffic. Some people live in intersections. So naturally, traffic is going to come along that's going to hit them. Now, that's just the first part of intersectionality. That's what happened to the Graff-and-Reed women. They were black women. They were hit by race and gender discrimination. That's structural intersectionality. But there's more. So let's suppose you are in this intersection. Let's suppose that the traffic comes along and hits you, right? And let's suppose that you think, well, look, I've got insurance. I've got insurance against race discrimination. I've got insurance against gender discrimination. Surely an ambulance is going to come and pick me up out of the intersection. Surely that's what the Graff-and-Reed women thought when they went to court. Surely we're protected against this. Well, what happened when the ambulances came? Well, they came and they dickered and they dithered about, well, is this your problem? Is this your problem? It's not my problem, it must be your problem. What did they end up doing? They got in the ambulance and drove away. So that's the second aspect of intersectionality, the failure of movements, of interventions, of strategies of reform to deal with those marginalized cases of racism and sexism because they don't look familiar. It doesn't look like anything people realize. So it's political intersectionality, women being marginalized by the very movements that claim them as part of their constituency.